now with more reaction. Texas Congressman Louie Gohmert, South Carolina Congressman Jeff Duncan. Gentlemen, welcome. By the way, war is an ugly thing. Mujahideen, he shouted Allahu Akbar. And didn't this administration call this workplace violence?
That's what they said. He thinks it's an act of war, and they think it's just workplace violence, which also confuses what goes on in our embassies. You know, there's a threat. Sean, do you remember when Bush was threatened with violence? He said, and he got a lot of criticism, bring it on.
Really?
And the reaction of this administration, oh, that's workplace violence. We're threatening our embassies. It's not to beef up security. They have a nonverbal answer of showing their rear end and elbows as they run the other direction.
You know, I think Congressman Duncan, I think Congressman Gohmert has a good point here. They're calling this war, and our administration doesn't have the courage to admit what is obvious. How is that perceived among radical Islamists?
Well, listen, this should never have been called a incident of workplace violence. We call it for what it is. This was an act of jihad by someone as a proclaimed mujahideen. This was an act of terror. And this is just indicative of this administration really scrubbing the words of terror out of the lexicon. The disappearing language of terror, words that were used in the 9/11 Commission report are not used by the Pentagon. They're not used by the administration. This was an act of terror. And this does a disservice to the brave men and women, the victims of Fort Hood shooting.
Does the closing down of these embassies, Congressman Gohmert, make America look on defense, look weak? Does it embolden the enemy?
Sean, we look like cowards, and if you know from information documents we gathered when we would capture al-Qaeda activists and all in the Middle East under the Bush administration and questioning, we'd find out the recruiting tool was not as much Abu Ghraib or Guantanamo as it was when we showed weakness. They talked about Vietnam, about Tehran when we fled, all these incidents where we refused to fight. This is the kind of thing that causes recruiting of terrorists when we don't show courage. And I tell you what, I don't know the judge that's trying this case down at Fort Hood, but I flip back. I had one guy that was particularly out of line, and I warned him 3 times, and then we duct taped his head, and we didn't hear from him until it was his turn to talk. And
that's when you were a judge?
That was when I was a judge of felony court.
That didn't go in your courtroom.
Well, you just had to, gave him 3 warnings, made the record, and then wrapped him up.
Why, Congressman Duncan, would we reveal the fact that we were able to get this intelligence? Won't that shut down al-Zawahiri and others?
Absolutely it will. It shows them that we're able to either listen to their conversation or have people on the ground that are providing us information. They're going to look for those people. They're going to shut them down. This administration revealed some of our techniques, or at least where some of our sources may have been, and so it's going to make it extremely difficult going forward for our administration and for the intelligence community to compile the information we need to stop or thwart the next terrorist attack. So that was a mistake to reveal as much as we did.
Well, and Sean, what's even more revealing, I mean, Jeff's exactly right, but we're faced with a big threat. What's our response? Are we going to get tough and not let them get away with it? No, we turn tail and run. That is outrageous.
It's embarrassing. You actually quoted as saying it makes us look like a bunch of cowards. Let me shift topics for 1 second and ask you about
that was accurate quote, by the way.
All right. Well, I tend to agree with you. I mean, it seems like they ought to be on defense, afraid what we're going to do because we know where they are. Exactly. And then now we revealed that we can intercept their messages, which is crazy.
And we still run, and we don't prepare for them.
Let me ask you a question. The effort to defund Obamacare, which you are supporting in the House, how many members now do you have with you?
Well, we're gaining. I'm not sure. We're still growing, but it's an ongoing
pressured by the leadership to not do it.
I'm not, because they know that they're doing it good. But yeah, the pressure is there. Look, we can't stand a shutdown, and we don't want to shut down. We want to fund the government, like Mike Lee and Rand and Ted, that we've all talked about. Fund the government. But people are actually going to get hurt. They're not going to get the pacemaker. They're not going to get the help they need. We're doing this for America. For the guy that's making $14,000 that'll ultimately have an extra 2.5% tax because Obama went after the little guy. Obamacare. We're doing it for those people, and we need to stand up. But there is pressure, and I tell you what, this deal where all of a sudden the administration announces they're going to go ahead and let the government pay 72% of our health care come January.
They exempted themselves.
Yeah, well,
really?
There's nothing like self-interest to get people moving, and they just took a lot of congressional self-interest. I wish they hadn't done that.
Congressman Duncan, you supporting the effort to defund?
Absolutely. Don't bring a CR to the floor unless it defunds Obamacare, delays the implementation. I would rather shut the government down, and I'm not advocating for that, but I would rather shut the government down than continue shutting America down, and that's exactly what Obamacare does. And it shuts down the American businesses and the job creators.
But you fund the rest of the government except for Obamacare, so that would really be the Democrats' choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How bad, President Obama, do you want to hurt America with your health care, non-health care plan? Thanks.
Good
I
to
love
see you.
Jeff.
Thanks for filling on the radio yesterday.
Oh, you showed more courage than anything I've seen to have me host your radio.